Now, okay.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And for those of you who are just joining us here right now, we're going to have an afternoon tea with Mr. Najmie, the COO of Cosmopoint, Sandran Berhad. And for those of you who have just joined in, so I would appreciate you to also say hi to us so that we know that you're watching this over this right now. And before we officially introduce our guest here for today, so what I would like to do is I would like to invite all of you here to also help us to like and share this Facebook Live so that we can benefit many more people out there right now. Oh, and also one more thing which I forget to inform all of you. So if you have to like, comment, and share, and make sure that it is in the public status, we will be picking some lucky winners to walk away with the limited edition Touch and Go Tun Mahathir card. All right. So again, do have to like and share as well so we can benefit many more people out there. So right here with me, we have Lawrence. Right, for those who are here, say hi to Lawrence. Lawrence is here. You want to say anything?
Yes, no, just hello, hello.
All right. And last but not least, of course,
MCO already.
and last but not least, we have our guest here today, Mr. Najmie. All right, everybody say hi to Mr. Najmie. Say hi to him.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Very good
All
afternoon.
right. Okay, so let's get into this right now. For those who are right here, so we got friends already say hi. Well, this is very fast. Is Izati Bashri already say hi? All right. Okay, so let me just ask a very casual question first. Okay, so Najmie, so what's the first thing you want to do after MCO?
Probably get a shave. This is something that I'm holding on until the end of the MCO. Just trying out a new look. So yeah, after that I'm gonna get a shave and a haircut maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, has it been your plan to keep your mustache like that? Because I've never seen you with this long mustache before.
Yeah, I did it a few years back. So just trying out since I'm not meeting anyone except you guys now. So yeah.
Okay, so like in your case, I'm just curious because you run a group of colleges, including Cosmopoint and KLMUC. So my question is that how has the COVID-19 outbreak affected your organization so far?
First and foremost, I'd just like to say hello to any of my staff or students watching. I wish you guys all the best. So I think no one could predict whatever that has been happening right now. It's not in anyone's business plan. There is no BCP for a coronavirus type, business continuity plan. We could predict a slowdown in the student numbers, or we could say an economic downturn, but not to the extent where people cannot actually go out of the house, which is what is happening right now. So it is an unprecedented and totally something that even for me, I mean, we haven't planned for it. So we had to adapt as a business and also as a service to the students. Number one, obviously, we cannot hold classes. I think that's the biggest change before the movement control order and now during the movement control order. And having classes or physical classes is the biggest component of our day-to-day operations, right? Lectures, tutorials, meeting students for examinations, students actually just coming to our campuses to use the facilities. Those are big things that we cannot do for the past 3 weeks already. So it has impacted our operations in terms of how we plan to deliver our service to our students, very much so. Not just for me and also for our college and universities, but also I think for the rest of the education industry.
I think for those of you watching over Facebook Live, so Najmie runs a group of colleges, Cosmopoint, in every state, I think except Perlis, right?
Except Perlis, and Labuan,
Yeah, every single state has one, and of course, in KL, it's called KLMUC. So my question is, so since that classes can't be continued like normal, right? How do you, in your perspective, from your viewpoint, from your own colleges, right? How do you continuously deliver your service to them?
Yeah, I think the first phase of the MCO, what we did was to extend the semester break, or what we call them, basically a midterm break, to another week. We thought we could extend and push the class all the way until the 1st of April, and then from then onwards continue with the classes. But because it has extended further from the previous original MCO, we now initiated the secondary option, which is to start distance learning programs, meaning that we conduct our classes through various methods, using all the available tools that we have rather than just one platform. So we have people who are teaching using the standard Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Edmodo, Google Classrooms, all the way to even directly using WhatsApp to deliver content and materials to the students, simply because some of the students, especially for our rural students located in places like Sabah, Sarawak, with pretty subpar internet connectivity, it's hard for them to do this sort of live streaming lectures. So we have to record the lectures and pass it on to them and let them continue with the lesson plans. It's not an ideal situation, but I think week by week we are improving, and it all depends on whether the students are accepting of this new methodology or not.
Right. Like in this case, you mentioned about infrastructure, which I think, of course, very ideally, a lot of people say, let's go for distant learning, let's go for Zoom.
Yeah.
But I think still there are still areas that probably don't have enough infrastructure or bandwidth or speed. So like you say, I heard you mention, say you record. I mean, can you elaborate more on how do you reach out to people who may have lack of infrastructure?
Yeah, so the first part is we are quite fortunate because we have teams all over the different states. So every state we have a small team of 20 staff, including lecturers and non-academics as well. So what they do is to engage the students and find out what are their technological capabilities. Some of the students may not even, because primarily we deal with the B40 household. So some of them may not even have laptops, for example, to conduct online lectures and doing what they normally do using the facilities available in our campuses. Once we find out what they have, and then it is up to the respective lecturers to propose a solution to deliver the contents to the students. So that's why we have great variability across 12 campuses. It's quite interesting to see, like, for example, like some groups are doing when we have culinary classes, right? So how do you do culinary classes without having them coming over to your kitchen and cook? So some of our lecturers have been quite inventive enough to actually give out mini projects for them to do at home, and they present their finished products using videos and photos. Probably there's no food tasting because you can't taste the food, right? But at the very least, they've completed certain projects, especially for those in semesters 1 to semester 3. It's quite practical for them to get a hands-on experience doing something in the kitchen.
Right.
I think this is something very new to not only the higher education. I think to a lot of organizations, even for MyPerintis as well. Even this morning, we are still testing out on Google Hangouts. Zoom is definitely terrible because some of my staff are actually at outskirts, they're balik kampung, their internet connection is not very good. To follow up on that, it is something very sudden. I think this pandemic is something very sudden, and a lot of people get caught by attention and they're not ready for this. So it's not going to just affect your organization, but how do you see this in the whole landscape, higher education landscape in whole?
Yeah, I think first we must understand what is the higher education landscape. I think we have about, as of 2018, about 1.4 million students studying in tertiary education itself. That's a big number. I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 600,000 or 700,000 of them are in private higher education, and the balance actually. So private higher education has more students than public higher education. Everyone, probably people who are interested in the industry, would know that a lot of the players, the private higher education players, have been struggling across I think for the past 5 to 10 years, ever since I think 2012 onwards, simply because the market is flat, meaning there is no growth in terms of the number of population for SPM students, and the number of foreign students have been quite same for the past few 5, 6, 7 years. Now, with this COVID-19 and pandemic issue coming in, for us, we are not totally reliant on foreign students, right? For us, we have maybe a small percentage of foreign students in KL itself. About 5% of our students there are foreign students. But for a lot of the other industry players. There are more than they are close to 500 private higher education players. Some of them are totally dependent on foreign students, right?
Yes.
But up to half of their intake is coming from overseas. With this COVID-19, the issue is when or how soon can the students come back? And that is something that you do not want to take a risk on. I think the government has been quite proactive in limiting the movement and not opening up the borders too soon.
Yeah.
But if this continues, you can definitely foresee there will be a huge drop in the number of students participating in higher education, starting from this year itself. We have not even started the discussion assuming that the economy goes down as what Bank Negara predicted it to go down up to negative 2% GDP growth. That means a lot of businesses is going to close down, and that's going to impact also higher education, because the ability for parents to send their children to higher education would probably be limited, and they would be asked to start work immediately after high school. So the whole landscape right now is on the edge. We were already, probably over capacity for the past few years. So right now is probably the survival of the fittest. Those who have a huge cash balance, or probably with institutional investors backing them, would probably survive. And the rest, unfortunately, maybe you will see a huge reduction in the number of education providers, not just higher education. I also suspect that this is going to impact as well international schools, because a lot of the international students probably, if they are on holiday, cannot come back, and things like that. And even the affordability, parents who are trying to save money may not be able to send their children to, private schools anymore. So the entire private education landscape is a bit, people say, CPCP lah, you don't know what's going to happen next. And it's a huge industry, every year I think higher education itself for private higher education contributes, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 40 billion to the overall GDP, in terms of your tuition fees, in terms of your accommodation, lodging, and then about, I think, 11 Bs coming from the foreign students. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's around the figures that we are talking about. So, if this year there's no foreign students coming in, and we take in maybe, if I'm not mistaken, 15,000 students every year, or 20,000 students every year, new students, that is a huge economic multiplier for people. And then people from Cyberjaya would know what I'm talking about, like when we talk about foreign students bringing up the whole community there.
Yes. I think it's a very interesting facts and figures that you have shared. 1.4 million students take up private education. Maybe you want to enlighten us. Actually, are there how many IPTS in Malaysia currently?
There are private higher education players. I think there are about 447 as of end of 2018. That's a lot. So this consists of about 347 private college, about 30 plus university college, 10 foreign branch campus, your University of Nottingham.
Yes.
There's a few, I think, over in Iskandar, and there's some over in Sarawak, and 53 private universities. So a total of 447. And we are talking about a domestic market every year of just 500,000 people taking SPM. So that's why I think a lot of our youths continue and pursue tertiary education, because the choices are so many, so and you have very different cost structure for all. Some are very low cost, some are quite expensive. So it's quite interesting. Just to correct you, Lawrence, I think out of the 1.4 million, about 51% is studying in private higher education. The balance is studying in public. Yeah.
Wow. That is still a very big number.
Very big number.
I think education is not something very, in Malaysia, I think all students, once they finish PP3, they will go to SPM. After SPM, I will just continue on with STPM or whatever that is available for them. So this is already quite a norm, right? So I think the
Yeah.
youths continue to just pursue their education until they whichever they can finish. So how do you think this will impact the youths today, especially those who have just actually gotten their results recently? Of course, now stuck at home and they are faced with indefinite timeline, what to do. So how do you think this will impact the young people today?
I mean, we all agree that I think the main priority is to make sure that people are healthy, right? I mean, forget about the business side of it, and even getting a degree is useless if you are sick. So we understand the need for the MCO. Let's put that aside.
Sure.
But just discussing purely from a student perspective, usually by this time, the students are already going for a lot of education fairs for those in the urban areas, or they are patiently waiting for the UPU results, which is due to come, I think, in May or June, if I'm not mistaken. And most of them are working part-time, earning extra money, so that they have money for when they need to go to universities and college, duit belanja, for 1 or 2 months. And now you can't, so you're just sitting at home and just waiting. So that will probably result in them either deciding to just go for the lowest cost providers, which includes also going for polytechnics and vocational training, or to defer their intake to a later date. They may decide to work first, maybe for 6 months to help their family. We don't know, because right now the economic impact of this COVID-19 is slowly being felt, but it's not widespread yet. You don't see like people, thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people jobless just yet, but it could happen. And when that happens, I think a lot of the youths will have to mobilize their energy to help their family rather than continue further education. So that's a challenge also for the youths. They have to make a decision right now, which is more important for them. But I've always said to even our students, right? I think the priority is to make sure that whatever decision that you make has long-term consequences. Any delay or any decision that you make now, you may not see it today, but you will see the result in 5 years' time. And that's usually a time where it takes for you to complete your diploma and then start working for the first time and then get your first promotion. Because if you are without a higher education certificate, there's a difficulty not in getting your first job, but there's a difficulty in moving up through the ranks and getting better pay in 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time. That's the challenge, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we have got very interesting,
very good figures and very, 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 very important thing that they actually have to decide. But I think to decide on A or to decide on B is also both equally important and is crucial. Wesley?
Yeah, I like the part where the numbers, you just throw out the numbers like that. I find it very amazing. It's very precise, like 51% and all. So in the meantime, what we have right now is, because I've been scrolling through the Facebook comments and it seems that Mr. Najmie, a lot of our fans are coming online right now. So let me just say hi to some of them. So we have Mahanan Fauzia. Say hi, Mahanan Fauzia.
That's my mother-in-law.
So sorry, makcik.
Wah,
jangan Facebook lagi, right? Hafiz Syukur, hashtag CC Kuantan, right? I know Hafiz, right? Hafiz. We have Susanna Su, Wan Su. We have Mike, they have Mike Sierra, did I get a name right? Mike, right? They say hi, Encik Najmie. Ashnani, hi, Ashnani, Nashikin, say hi, Encik Najmie. Hashtag CC Seremban.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of the branches are coming in, huh?
So we have Arif Arifin, we have Noor Fahana, we have Aisha Manso, we have Fisha Ashif, say hi Encik Najmie, Mr. Wesley, Dato' Lawrence, hashtag CC Penang. We have Madhya Sha'ari, also CC Penang. We have Noor Azira, CC Seremban. Noor Azira, Seremban as well. Nura Akila, also from Seremban. Mazwin say, my boss, give you a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Imran Khan is here to say hi. Madhya Sha'ari say hi. Shireen also say hi, and Humera, hashtag TC Malacca. All right. So it seems like you have a lot of fans, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So, as a follow-up question, I think, Lawrence, you want to address the next question?
Yeah, sure. I think we have actually touched a bit about those who have actually gotten their results recently. But I would like to shift a bit on the discussion to those who are actually also gotten their results recently, but are those that just graduated from higher education, maybe the graduates from the universities or the college. Do you foresee that there will be a high graduate unemployability post COVID-19 at this period of time?
Yeah, okay. I think the issue for graduate unemployment has been something that has been discussed about by the government, previous government, the current government, and by everyone in general has an opinion on graduate unemployability. It is not just an issue with Malaysia, but it is a global issue where youths are finding it harder and harder to get jobs that matches their qualification. So the issue is there are jobs out there, but the jobs are increasingly favoring low-skilled workers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, since 2010, we have been adding more low-skilled jobs, new low-skilled jobs in Malaysia, and we have been reducing high-skilled jobs in terms of the number of new jobs created. That is something that will impact graduates, definitely, because you have then, I give you a good example, right? One of the most attractive jobs right now for a graduate is to become a Uniqlo store manager, right? Because there's a high pay, you know. So you usually see a long line of applicants going for that. I think if they call it management trainee program or something like that, they pay 2,000 plus, and that's above average for a diploma or a degree graduate here in Malaysia, fresh grad. And that's something is good for Uniqlo and is fair enough for everyone to apply, but it makes us lose valuable human capital. Because you have people who have been trained in the science field, for example, engineers, or people who are in accounting or even art streams, like graphic design and things like that, having to work in the retail sector. Now, the retail sector has been growing because our economy has shifted to personal consumption instead of export, right? So we want people to keep on buying things to grow the economy. The problem with that is that retail as a business itself has very low upward income mobility, meaning that once you reach the level of a store or a branch manager, there's very few opportunities for you to move up into another career path, like senior management and things like that, especially for a foreign firm which mostly operates the retail outlets here in Malaysia. That's why you see also, I think in the past 10 years, there's a lot of cafes and restaurants opening, right? And that creates jobs, correct? And youths are free to select those jobs. But it's the wrong kind of business that is being created in the past 10 years. Now, that has been the situation before the MCO. So you've been creating a lot of jobs that is low skill, that probably, a lot of youths are struggling to find jobs that matches their qualification. What happens now with the MCO? Number one, the retail sector is going to get hit quite badly. I think for the past few months, the hospitality industry has been severely hit. Hotels, conferences, even those part-time workers that do the banquets for weddings and things like that, those are, you're losing jobs there. The opportunities are gone there. Next is the airline industry and the travel industry. That has been severely impacted. Tourism industry impacted. Third, it would be the restaurants. A lot of the restaurants, although yes, Food Panda is helping out, but you don't need waiters for Food Panda.
Yes.
Right? So you're suddenly your crew, you don't need as many as before. So that's again a shrinking job market, even in the low skill. So in the next 1 or 2 months, low skilled work is getting compressed, meaning the opportunities are less. Meanwhile, the high or medium or high skilled jobs, even something as simple as data entry jobs, etc., will be on a slowdown because there's no data to enter, right? It's as simple as that. I mean, if there's slowdown in business activities, why would anyone want to hire new people?
Yes.
Businesses are struggling at the moment trying to keep people.
Yes.
They can't even afford to keep the people that they have. So the idea of them recruiting people in the next few months becomes a challenge. So for the graduates, which is back to your question, once you've graduated, what are the challenges that you face? I think this is going to be the toughest challenge for new graduates to find quality jobs, in the market, because firms are not going to hire even good firms. I've just read recently a report that PwC, one of the biggest accounting firm even in the United Kingdom, is basically having a wage freeze. Nobody's getting increment, no bonuses for the year, no increase in staff. They're just trying to keep staff safe there. So if big firms are in that situation, smaller firms are even more impacted. For the graduates, it's survival of the fittest again. Unfortunately for them, the job market is going to be tough. They have to be adaptable, or they can start their own business, which is easier said than done. And I don't like to say that, but maybe that is one of the opportunities out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having said that, we talk about some issues, talking about decline in hospitality. You talk about aviation. You talk about F&B chain, and then you talk about even mid and high skilled being affected. So in this case, my follow-up question to you is: so in this case, what would be your advice to job seekers or people who are looking for a job right now? What do you think that they should be doing right now?
Yeah, first of all, I think for those still with a job, including myself, we should be very thankful, count our blessings. I honestly, it's a situation that nobody knows what's happening in the next few months, right? So first, whoever has a job, work hard to keep that job. Number two, for those who are looking for a job, I think the key part here is adaptability. One of the features that I've always tried to emphasize to my staff and also to the students is how do you develop your adaptability? Meaning, this is one feature that a lot of the education system and also even motivational programs don't focus on. They focus on, your self-confidence, your public speaking skills. But I think right now, the key thing to survive is adaptability. When Darwin postulates the survival of the fittest, is not about the strongest, but those who can really adapt. So right now, for graduates, if you have a degree in one field, there's nothing wrong for you to try something else that is beyond your field. I think people are already doing that. But the next level would be, are you creative enough to think of something outside of the box? People normally, if you have an accounting degree, you work in audit, you work as an account executive, or even auditor or collections officer, etc. But those are all finance related for some reason, right? Maybe they have to think something outside of that field, finance itself, right? Forget about being an accountant, right? That is one field, but we are talking about totally different field. And I think a lot of employers, if you bring value to the company, that means after the MCO, you are someone that they think that can help them boost back their sales or improve their company's performance, they will want to hire you. But that's a challenge, because we get thousands of CVs. I mean, we get hundreds of CVs for one job opening anyway. So, good luck.
All right, so here we have, so let's communicate with some of our friends right here. We have Nadia Noordin saying hi from CC Malacca. We have Abu Ryan Alexander from CC Malacca. We have William Chi. All right, William. Yati Ari from CC Malacca. We have Nurul Hanis from CC Penang. We have Muhammad Faik say hey to you. We have a question from Imran, which I'm going to address the question to you right now. Okay, so Imran has a question. With higher competition for fresh graduates entering the workplace, what is your view on the growth in focus around TVET and other vocational training schemes? Are those jobs necessarily low income? For example, oil and gas welders.
So you see, my view on TVET is it is a great subsegment of the total education system. We definitely have to grow it. I think our TVET participation rate is in the low teens, meaning that out of the total students out there, maybe 10-12% of them are in TVET, which is quite low compared to developed countries. Now, my problem with with TVET is only one thing. It is very specialized, right? So if you are trained for 8 months as a oil and gas welder, for example, like you mentioned, right, or 12 months on a oil and gas program, with the collapse of the oil price right now, right, where it's dipping in 15, 14, I can't remember how many dollars it is. It's so cheap. Oil is so cheap right now that people are cutting back on investment. And when that happens, anyone with a particular skill set that is so specialized, for example, in welding, oil and gas, a specific field, it will become difficult for them to adapt because employers have better choices out there. That's the only issue with TVET. And the reason why I argued before this, that when you measure TVET success in getting employment, is simply because the number of TVET graduates is so small and there are more jobs than graduates, right? But if you have, for example, 1 million, like what the normal diploma and degree students are, there's about 1 million plus of them in diploma and degree, conventional education. And there are no 500,000 new jobs every year.
Yes.
Then you see graduate unemployment becomes higher. And with TVET is the opposite, because you have so few graduates from the TVET field, less than the jobs current in previous market. Now that was previously. Now, after MCO, nobody knows, right, whether the TVET market itself, manufacturing, export-driven products, building things, assembling things, these are all TVET skills. If the export market drops, why would they need to hire new graduates anyway from either TVET or conventional field? So it cuts across the board, unless we are talking about TVET that is maybe something that could build up after the MCO. For example, we talk about IT-based TVET training, right? Where you go into a bit more on hardware maintenance. Probably that could work, but I still think that what we need right now is to focus, or the government or policymakers should focus on how do we create as much jobs as possible to absorb as many of its graduates, regardless whether they are coming from the TVET field or the conventional education field, in the next 6 months.
Right. And you mentioned a lot about adaptability, which is being flexible and not to stick to what you study. So knowing that many of our viewers out there could be already watching this, they are in their after SPM, post SPM. So I've got this one question for you. Since that now we talk a lot about adaptability and being flexible, what would you advise SPM school leavers to take to adapt to the current post-COVID-19 pandemic?
I think number one is you must be flexible in the kind of how should I put this? You got to be flexible in your dreams. All right, I think that's number one, right? Your expectations, sorry, not your dreams, but your expectations, right? A lot of students have this idea in their mind that after SPM, they'll go and study in a university and a college, have a very fun life, meeting friends, maybe meet their husband or wife there in university or college, that's some people's mindset, or be intellectually stimulated and all that. But maybe, number one is to expand your expectations. What if I were to work first and then study? What if I were to study in a totally different way? For example, fully online, modular classes, are there enough institutions out there that provide these kind of opportunities? If you're the kind who is self-motivated enough to study, and that's the problem with distance learning and online learning, people don't seem to track that. The discipline rate is very, very low, meaning that people complete online courses. It's a very small percentage of people who complete online courses. It's a challenge. So whenever people say everyone should shift to online, they are not thinking about how human behaves, right? It's not as easy as that. So if you are a fresh graduate, if you are disciplined enough to go for online courses, and especially certified online courses, then you should try and go for those first, and maybe delay a long-term commitment on a degree and a diploma program, if that's if you're capable of doing that. But we are quite fortunate in Malaysia in the sense that our students could be funded in many ways to pursue their studies, like PTPTN, for example. And this is something that the government has to really commit into, because about 60% of the fees for private higher education is coming from PTPTN. And interestingly, quite a significant number. I think 40% of PTPTN disbursement is for public education. So students in even public institutions are taking quite a lot of PTPTN loans to continue their studies. So we have that opportunity to keep on financing students to continue their study. It is really up to the SPM levers to be adaptable enough to think about what are their expectations. You know, can the expectation shift to something a little bit more left field or a different field of studies? A lot of people want to become like maybe pilots or, you know, airline crew. You know, that's their dream. But right now, you know, even the airlines are putting their crews on unpaid leaves and a huge wage cut. So it is something for people to be aware of. Read more, be aware of the industry trends. Yeah, try to understand what's happening and try to anticipate. It's difficult. Even the smartest people in the world cannot predict what's happening in the next 6 months. But at least have some clear vision on, you know, it's a bit risky, for example, for you now to pin your hopes on becoming an airline crew, right? So those are just one or two examples that I can give.
Perfect. Good.
I think it's a very, very, very good sharing on that part. But I really want to ask this question. I think mindset change. You see, what we have in mind and what do we take action. I think this is something that is sometimes we really want to do it, but we don't do it. You see, this one thing about I'm not going to speak on behalf of all the people, but for example, there's a lot of people that will not want to make any changes. You know, will not want to transform when there's no necessity. So I just want to ask this question, Najmie. What do you think post this pandemic or whatever that is happening now? What is that few thing that you think that permanently may change after this is all over?
First, Dato', I'm not even sure if this will be permanently over in the near future. Simply because of the way the virus spreads and the way it creates new clusters out of nowhere. Until and unless vaccine comes into the picture, which people say earliest is maybe 18 months. So that's 1.5 years of us practicing social distancing, no big events, so you can forget about the music concerts that I enjoy going to. You know, gotta stop all those. So fundamentally, we talk about short term, right? First, within the next 6 to 12 months, what's going to happen is that a lot of businesses are going to cut down on their expenses significantly. They want to preserve cash. There will be less inclination to invest, and that would mean the flow of money in the economy would slow down significantly. A lot of people will get retrenched. There will be, you know, a short, maybe a long term, but I suspect it's just a short term spike in unemployment in the next 6 to 12 months. General unemployment, forget about graduate unemployment. Then we talk about the medium term, which is between 2 years to 5 years. You know, what will change? Number one, we now recognize that the biggest threat in the world is global. It's not going to be localized anymore. That will change the way that we think about how we cooperate with other countries in terms of information sharing, in terms of the way that we do business as well. You know, whatever that is happening in Wuhan, I would never predict that it would impact this business within just 4 months. We're talking about 4 months between the first case in December till now. So that's crazy, right? To think about something that's happening in Hubei province can impact something that is in Kuala Terengganu, for example. Business people will think that way now. They will think the risk is global. And so the way that they behave is going to be a lot more nimble. They're not going to be so focused on domestic markets anymore. Even if they are domestic market oriented, they will think about the risk from overseas, this sort of risk, virus risk, oil price crash risk, things like that. That will change who they hire. That's what I want to say. If you are in an organization that has the luxury of choosing the people that you want to hire, you would now choose people who have that same mindset, who can see trend lines 6 months in advance. Dia dah nampak tau. Dia jenis-jenis individual yang well versed in global news. So that's why I say for the youth nowadays, they should start reading more. It's fun to follow up on artis tempatan, which I do. Kita ikut artis tempatan, and I enjoy watching Netflix and all that. But try to read the news a lot more, because that's going to help you become a better employee. At the same time, also make you more employable. The long-term effect of this is, number one, I think from a health perspective, there will be new rules and guidelines that is going to impact the way that we do and live our lives. I'm not sure what that will be, but once the vaccine comes out, there will probably be a whole new process for us. And as we build the immunity globally, there will be a global response from a health perspective to make sure that something like this either will not happen again, or if it happens, it will not spread as much as it does right now. 1.2 million cases as of yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, with, I can't remember, 30,000 or 40,000 deaths already. So other than that, let's go back to my industry, right? I think the policymakers, the ministry, and also the qualifying agencies like MQA have got to accept that flexibility is important for any business organizations. You can't be going back and forth with the old way of approving contents, approving programs. There should be a totally different mindset of, in case something like this happens, or even if something like this doesn't happen, right? Universities and colleges should be allowed the flexibility to deliver their programs in different methods and different ways, and students should be allowed the flexibility to learn at their own pace. Because right now the biggest issue is, how do you complete a semester, right? People always think of it that way, right? Within this 6 months, or within these 4 months for us, how do you complete the semester within the academic calendar that has already been approved? Meanwhile, if you think about it from a modular perspective, it really doesn't matter, right? You complete a program, you take the examination, you complete one module, pass. You can complete it in 6 months, good for you. You complete it in 60 months, it's really also up to you, right? So those are the kinds of long-term changes to the education sector that I would like to think that the policymakers will start thinking about. From a business side, I think if I can work from home, and a lot of my staff are watching here right now, right? So the biggest question would be, why do we need an office next? Right? People will start be thinking about that already, right? If you can function, you need place where people can meet. But you don't meet all the time. A vast majority of your hours in the workspace is done just sitting at your desk. Some of you watching YouTubes and things like that, right? It's fine, right? But it's the point being that, employers now will think about it that way. So if they start thinking that a lot more business can be done from home, then what's the point of office?
Right.
And that would bring up the number of unused space in office space, another issue. At the same time, also, it would increase the need for the likes of TM to improve our internet stability and connectivity, because now it's very important, right? You look at how we are trying to distribute the bantuan prihatin, right? A lot of people are still going to the ATM machines, trying to withdraw their cash. So the government need to really expedite the shift towards the digital part of it. Get a lot more people to get their money on their phones, so that in case something like this happens again, we would simply adapt and move forward quicker than what we are doing right now.
Yep.
Wow, very, very good point and very, very insightful sharing from you. And you know, as you're mentioning now, I think a lot of your students or staff coming in like Hana, Jiwa, Vasanti, Fakro, Adik Izan, Fahmi, Norai,
I will
Fazil,
ask them
Nitya.
what they're doing right now. This is after the lunch break already.
Cheryl, Ari, and the list continues. So many people are watching you right now, right? Okay, perhaps I'm going to take the last question here. I'm
Sure.
going to address the last question here from Abu Rayyan Alexander. He says question like, okay, so do you think the current education system in Malaysia support multi-skill since most educators are keen on producing students who are specialized in one field only? What's your take on this?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Multi-skill or multidisciplinary education is something that the policymakers have to explore. Meaning that if I am passionate about certain components of accounting and I'm passionate about certain components of graphic design, I should be able to take these components and combine it together to make myself become educated in a totally new area, right? Graphic design plus elements of corporate accounts, for example. So, but right now, we don't have that structure in place, right? It's pretty much a rigid structure. If katakanlah you belajar tourism management, right? There are some business components there, but there is no, for example, poster making, right? If you're in the tourism industry, maybe you need to learn a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of social media marketing and things like that, but it's not part of the syllabus. It doesn't allow for that. And that's something that we should really think about in the future, whether there is still a need for us to specialize in, for example, bachelor in history or bachelor of arts in computer graphic design. So these are long-term ideas that will play out, I think. Maybe this MCO and COVID-19 or pandemic would expedite because it is heading that way anyway. You know, right now people are just taking short courses and combining it, and the only issue is employers. You know, a lot of people still go for degrees and diploma because the employers recognize a degree and diploma, and that's the easiest way for you to get a job.
Yeah.
So the first part is employers must be able to have a skill to assess people without a formal certification, and then only you can talk about multidisciplinary kind of education that he was talking about just now.
Good point.
I have a very. I saw one of a very good comment here by Iqbal. The government need to reform the education post-COVID, and Mr. Najmie needs to chair the committee and do the reform. So congratulations, you have a very supportive fan that wants you to lead the reform. But
yeah, I know a couple of Iqbals. I'm not sure it's the same Iqbal or not. But yeah, thanks Iqbal.
Iqbal, well, you can read the comment later, so I don't want to expose anybody at the moment. But yeah. Now I really want to ask this. Well, you know, my mom also have a preschool education business as well.
Yeah,
I think it's education in whole, right? From preschool, primary, secondary, higher education. I just want to ask: do you know of any that has actually proven, successful model of actually online education, successful case study or model that around the world that has been portrayed that yes, actually people can learn and graduate from home?
Actually, there's already a lot of they call it massive online. I can't remember. It's MOOC, basically MOOC. So there are a lot of US-based companies that are quite successful in introducing programs, but there has not been. There are two, right? There are three levels of education: certificate level or short courses level, and then you've got your undergraduate, which is your diploma and degree, and then you've got your postgraduate. Now, we have seen a lot of success with distance learning on postgraduate. That has always been the case, even when it was doing snail mail. That means pakai surat pun dah ada orang belajar kat situ. No issue. So adapting it to the internet has been very easy. There's a lot of online master's program that you can take on, or blended learning program. That's quite easy. Certificate has been the one that has been most successful. Short courses, or short, or they call it mini diplomas or mini degrees, where you take like a really compressed 6 months online program, and it's only for certain fields. It seems to work better with IT base, for example, like learning how to code, learning website design, things that you can actually do practically on your computer itself. Seems to work better. I would find it quite difficult, I guess, for online delivery for courses like culinary skills. There's still quite a lot of programs that requires face-to-face, or the real value comes from building your individual capacity, and that's the challenge. So back to the question, has there been a successful one? In my mind, there hasn't been an online university that has even matched a conventional, even a normal conventional university and college yet. Can't see it at the moment. A lot of them are just offering short course. They call it themselves as an online university, but it's actually short courses. No one has undergone a successful full year degree fully online, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they're sure that there are, but when you say a successful model means it's replicated over a certain number of time with a large group of people, I don't think so. Yeah.
Right. Good. And so I think let me finish this one last question for you. I wouldn't say a question, but probably like a word of advice or encouragement. So on how should youth prepare now for the new world post-COVID? Do you have any encouragement or advice for them?
Well, number one, got to practice safe social distancing, right? When you come back to your class, you got to remember to stay away 1 meter. I know it's difficult because some of you girlfriend, boyfriends have not met each other for the past 1 month already. But yeah, it's a reality that at least for the next 6 months or even to a year, you've got to really practice safe social distancing. So that's my first advice.
Yes.
Number two would be, if there are still a lot of students, I think if I'm not mistaken, the number that I mentioned just now, about 1.3 to 1.4 million who are still in higher education right now. So they will be going back to classes after this. So the advice for them is, you are quite fortunate in a way because you have already made a decision before something happens, and you just have to ride through this storm for the next 2 years, getting your degree or your diploma. That's actually a pretty good temporary measure while waiting for the economy to recover, right? And so for people who have just completed their diploma, this is also perhaps a chance for you to maybe wait a little bit before entering the job market, because that you can continue on with your degree, for example, get something that's practical for you, or maybe change your course direction. Maybe you're taking something right now that you foresee has no value or very little value later. You can take a degree program that probably is a bit more relevant in 2-3 years time. And finally, back to my original advice, adaptability. I really hope that all the students remember that, even for us as a business people, it's very, very difficult to change the way we do things. Like we are trying to counsel a lot of prospects to join the college and university, and usually we meet them face to face, and right now we can't, right? So a lot of my counselors are out there, thinking of strategies on how to adapt themselves, and it's such a big challenge. Not easy, easier said than done. So every time I give advice, I always say, if I can't do it myself, then I segan to tell anything more than that. So so adaptability is key .
All right, good. Thank you very much for your time. I like the part that you're very practical, the way you answer. I think you've always been like that. That's very good. And of course, for those of you who are watching this, do send us your love and say thank you. We're about to reach the end of this interview. And again, one more time, shout out. And again, for those of you here, help us to like and share this post so you can benefit many more people out there. We will be picking a few lucky winners to walk away with Touch and Go Tun Mahathir Limited Edition Touch and Go.
Can I get one as well? No.
Can.
Yeah, sure. We can definitely arrange. No problem, right?
Okay. All right.
Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is that I'm gonna take a picture. Okay, so maybe you can just pose towards the camera. I'm gonna take a snapshot. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, done. Here we go.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Wesley. Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you. And for those of you here, stay safe, and hope to see all of you again very soon. Until then, everybody, stay safe. If there's any question, you can reach out to Mr. Najmie Noordin, look out for him, and you can ask any questions. Until then, all of you here, stay safe and stay at home. Bye-bye.